to falsely attach somebody to a crime of this nature would be so prejudicial. It's a very difficult call. We'll have to see what happens there, Joe. Thank you very much. We're also going to go to Deborah Farrick right now. She's looking at the FBI's side of this and what they're trying to do to piece together who may have done this. Deb, what's the latest?
Well, Chris, one thing we do want to add to Joe John's reporting, and that is, one thing the FBI wants, they want to be able to identify these individuals on their own. That's always the preference in any investigation. You don't release a photo until you've run everything else down and can't find them on your own. But the FBI has indeed made progress on that front. I was talking to somebody, a source who receives regular updates on what is going on, and what I'm being told is that investigators are reviewing surveillance video, not just from the marathon, but from the weeks before the marathon, the weeks leading up to that event. They want to see if anybody walked the finish line route, whether anybody may have been casing it to see what was accessible, what was not accessible. And clearly, if somebody who has been isolated from the crowd is seen in the week prior, clearly that would be a big lead. And Chris, what you've got teams of investigators, and they are brainstorming every single possibility to see whether that might lead them in a particular direction. They want to know, did the bombs go off as timed, as planned? And that would suggest was the person or persons, were they aiming for first responders, or were they just targeting a soft target? So all those kinds of things that they look at. Also, they want to know, for example, were there people in the crowd, other people that are known as shadows, people who may have been communicating information? And that's why so many of these pictures, you think about this huge montage of pictures, layer upon layer upon layer, and that's what all the investigators are looking at. You've got also, Chris, the forensic teams, and they're going through the evidence. They're looking at the blast patterns. ATF, they're so good at explosives and trying to determine exactly where the bomb came from, the direction it took, and that's crucial. We've been showing a picture, Chris, of this bag that almost like a grocery bag that was on one side of the divider, and then it was moved to the other side of the divider. People I'm speaking to, they're telling me, stay away from that. That doesn't look right, because the blast pattern, if you look at the metal railing, it blows into the mailbox. If that bag, that plastic bag, that paper bag had been the source of the device, then the railing would have blown in the other direction. Again, they've got to look at everything and parse it out and think and rethink and figure out what each individual frame means. And that's what's going on now. This is going to be an excruciating investigation. Chris?
All right, Deb, thank you very much. At the same time that they're trying to find who did this, people are coming together here for an interfaith service called Healing Our City. And we're looking at a live picture right now of Air Force One as President Obama and the First Lady prepare to come and join the city for this service. Wolf?
All right, Chris, stand by. Let's get a little analysis as we wait for the president to walk down those stairs from Air Force One together with the First Lady. Joining us now, our CNN law enforcement analyst, the former assistant FBI director, Tom Fuentes. Also joining us from the New America Foundation, the senior research fellow, Phil Mudd, a specialist on counterterrorism and intelligence, formerly with the CIA. Tom Fuentes, first to you. Let's talk a little bit about this investigation. As the governor of Massachusetts, Deval Patrick, said to me yesterday, we're all used to watching these kinds of dramas on TV, whether CSI or whatever. We expect very quick results. Doesn't always happen like that. This could take a while, this investigation, right?
No, that's true, Wolf. And they want to be very meticulous here and very deliberative in how they put out information, especially public information, about someone or someones that they're looking for to talk to. They've had problems in the past if someone's been characterized as a suspect, either by law enforcement or by the media.
By the way, let me interrupt for a second. That's Mitt Romney. Tom, hold on for a second. Mitt Romney, the former governor, the former Republican presidential nominee, he's here at the Cathedral of the Holy Cross for this interfaith service as well, but go ahead.
They want to make sure that they release to the public information that won't interfere with the investigation, and then also when they apprehend a suspect down the line and try to prosecute somebody, they don't want the case to be prejudiced. And if it turns out that the person is not involved in this, then they don't want to have an issue with that person being improperly or illegally characterized as a suspect in an investigation, especially one of this magnitude, if it turns out they were not involved in it. So at this point, they're being very deliberate to say these are a couple of individuals they would like to locate and talk to and try to get information, what they've seen, more or less as witnesses, and they do not want them called suspects either by law enforcement or by the media, and that's why the reluctance on the part of law enforcement to publicly release the photos and the reluctance on the part of the media to not get caught up in releasing them.
Here comes the President and the First Lady. They're walking down the stairs of Air Force One. They'll be coming over to the Cathedral of the Holy Cross here in Boston to participate in this interfaith service together with others. The mayor, the governor, and other dignitaries will be there, as will religious leaders of the major faiths here in the United States. We'll keep these pictures up as we continue the conversation. Phil Mudd, this is an investigation that not only has to look at the possibility for domestic terrorism, but international or foreign terrorism as well. And it's a complex environment, but aided dramatically by all the video that has been made available.
I think that's right. I think this is going to raise a debate long-term in America, like the debates we had on gun control in the wake of events that were so tragic in the past year or so. People are initially going to say, hey, look at the advantage you get in this 21st century environment where you have surveillance cameras everywhere. An environment that the Europeans, by the way, are way ahead of us on. A lot more surveillance in Europe than there is here. But I suspect over the course of a month or 2 or 3 months, Americans will step back and say, hey, that might have aided that investigation, but we're not sure we want to live in that kind of security culture.
And we can't draw, Phil, any hard conclusions about one of these bombs was in a pressure cooker that's obviously available very easily. You can't draw any conclusions whether that's a signature of a domestic or a foreign terrorist.
Actually, I would draw conclusions, but more about what it's not than what it is. When you look at the people I faced for a couple decades, that is, terrorists inspired by al-Qaeda, they, after 9/11, went to backpack bombs that were much more sophisticated than this. The explosives were more sophisticated. They received training, operational training that was pretty advanced. And remember, they selected targets that were harder than this target, and I would argue more iconic. That is, transportation targets that are recognizable worldwide. In this case, you've got folks who've selected a very soft target, very primitive devices, and a target that I don't think is iconic globally, even though it is in the United States.
All right, Phil and Tom, both of you stand by. We're awaiting the President and the First Lady. They're going to be heading over from Air Force One over to the Cathedral of the Holy Cross. We'll watch the interfaith service in its entirety here on CNN. Our special coverage will continue right after this.